Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest is a newer IFBB Bikini Pro who has been competing for 6 years, but says she really started taking this journey seriously in 2023 when she won her pro card at NPC Nationals, or maybe even slightly before that, I imagine. And outside of competing, she works as an online fitness coach, helping women live a healthy lifestyle to look and feel their best. She's currently in prep for her pro debut. Welcome to the show, ARISDELSY Cuevas. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that intro. I feel so special. This is my first podcast interview, so I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, I'm so happy and I'm honored that it's your first one. When you told me that, I was like, oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad that we're doing it together, and I don't think it'll be your last. So, with that being said, the first question I like to ask is if there is anything you do think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
So I kind of just try to zone in on my own lane. Um, in my first few shows, I used to kind of like look at people and compare myself, and I found that it never did me any benefit at all. If anything, it just kind of hurt me and like my mentality going into shows. So now all I do is look at people from the chest up and just smile. And I write a lot of affirmations. So I bring like my own little gratitude journal backstage, and I just write affirmations on like what I want to accomplish out of this show specifically and kind of speak it into existence already. And then right before I get on stage, I just do like a little prayer and thank God for like giving me this opportunity to actually do what I love to do, which is compete and dance on stage. Like it's really what I love to do. So that's pretty much what I do. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, first of all, to be journaling backstage, I really love that because I'm more of like a journal the night before person, but I may have to try that to actually get
Yeah.
in a zone backstage and
You
find that
definitely should
opportunity.
because I mean, just like speaking stuff into existence, it truly helps and it truly manifests itself, you know? And
Yeah.
then another thing I'd like to do is like I visualize myself getting the award that I want to receive. You know,
Mm.
so like what does that feel like inside? I like to do that right before I get on stage too. So just a lot of manifestation really is what I like to do right before I hit stage, obviously leading into the show, but right before stage, I feel like it really just centers me and grounds me, you know?
Absolutely. And then you said that you pray too. And when I heard you say that, I thought, there's no prayer too big for God. And so when you combine the affirmation and you combine the manifestation work you're doing with prayer, it's like you're really giving it to Him, probably puts you in a place of both peace, but also, I imagine, like excitement.
Yes, absolutely. Because obviously it's inevitable. You're going to be nervous, you know, no matter how many times you do this, you will be nervous getting on stage, you know. But if you put it in the hands of others that truly are like there for you, like God, He can, you know, make waves in your life. If you really just put that out there, you're able to just feel the good feelings versus the nerves, you know.
Yes, so true. And you said that you're in your element on stage. Like that's your place. And it is ironic that we really only have like this little bit of time to showcase months of work. So, what is it that you personally love about being on stage, and how did you come to realize that you loved it?
So actually it was the very first time I stepped on stage. I didn't really know what bikini like was. I just was like, okay, I'm down to do it because I was a cheerleader growing up,
Mhm.
all throughout my high school days and even in college. I cheered at UC Davis. And so
Wow.
the first time that I stepped on stage, it was like as if I was back in my cheerleading days. And like,
Mm.
if you knew me back then, I just eat, slip, and drink like cheer. Like cheer was my thing. I was a cheer captain at every single team that I was on. So that kind of just manifested itself again when I hit stage and I was like, wow, I really like this. And then the fact that like when you hit stage, the world kind of like gets still and it is like
Ooh, great way of
quiet
putting it.
and like you get the chills, but it's like it's your
Mhm.
moment. So if you don't let those nerves get to you, which like the prayer and the manifestation leading up to getting on stage kind of centers me, and then those nerves kind of go away, and then it's like, okay, everything that I've worked hard for is going to be able to be shown in these like 15 to a minute, seconds that you get on stage. And so that's what I like, yeah.
In some ways, it's very similar to cheer, or
Yeah.
other sports. You do prep a lot, and in cheer, I imagine like all those hours of practice, it's the same thing. You get a
Literally the
few
same thing.
moments.
It's literally the same thing. And I was a flyer. So it was
Oh,
honestly
wow.
really, really nerve-wracking because it's like you're the center of attention when you're up in the air, and any little tweak you do, you could fall. And then that just ruins the entire 2-minute routine that you get. So yeah, it's like you said, it's pretty much hand in hand, the same exact thing. What really hit me, it was like the spotlights, because I was like, whoa. It literally feels like I'm on stage, at a cheerleading competition,
I
only
bet.
it's just me. So that was really cool. So that's what really got me like hooked into bodybuilding because I've always loved training. I've always loved being healthy, but it's just the girly part of like being sparkly, bedazzled, and then just being
Yeah.
on stage. And I don't normally like being center of attention outside of stage, but when you get on stage, it's like it's a different feeling, kind of hard to explain. You kind of just have to like feel it yourself. But yeah, it does have a lot of hand in hand things with cheerleading, and I think that's why I've been so drawn to it.
How did you even find out bodybuilding existed?
So funny story. I grew up watching like a lot of telenovelas. I'm Mexican, so
Yeah.
um it's crazy because my fiance now he's like, "Hey, have you ever watched this movie?" I'm like, "No." Like I get so shy about it because
Oh,
I grew up just watching like Mexican TV. Like that's all I watched,
that's
you know?
amazing.
So when I got into high school, I was never really into watching TV, but somehow, some way, I don't remember exactly how, but I started watching YouTube. And the first girl I started watching was Buff Bunny, so Heidi
Oh,
Summer.
wow.
Yeah,
The
and
OG.
this was probably in 2011, 2012.
Mhm.
And at that
Yeah.
moment, she was doing her first competition. And I just got so intrigued by like how she was prepping for the show, and then like show day. So I was watching her entire prep and then her getting onto stage. And I'm like, whatever she's doing, I want to do because I know I could do that.
Yeah.
Um, so in I kind of was like just following her, and then I went to college. I was obviously busy and stuff, didn't really like dive into it. And then I was a cheerleader during college, so I was pretty like busy in itself. But when
Mhm.
I moved to Vegas in 2017, I mean, it's a bodybuilding capital here. So in the gym, people would ask me if I was a competitor, and I was like, I'm like baffled at the fact that you think I am. I've always wanted to, but I never like tried it. And then a good friend of mine, he was also training with me. He's like, I have a coach. You should at least like get to know him and see how you like it. And I was like, okay, sure. And then he was like, yeah, we're hopping into a prep. You're pretty much like stage ready. So we just
Nice.
like went for it, and it's been history since, really.
Did you have a good muscle base at that point?
Um, no, to be fair, I didn't. But I've always been very petite, so I didn't have a
Mhm.
lot of fat. So like to be able to like build, it was kind of like a lean bulk into my first prep, really.
That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, so but being a cheerleader, being an athlete growing up, I did have some, and I was
Mhm.
always intrigued by going to the gym. I remember in high school, like I used to go to, it was called A period,
Yeah.
and it was before everybody else started school. And all of the athletes, like baseball players, football players, did like a gym class basically.
Yeah.
Remember like signing up for that class just because I wanted to get in a workout and learn more about weights. And so I got into the class, and the first day I arrived, it was just me and all of these dudes. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I get myself into? But it was honestly a blessing in disguise because I learned so much
I bet.
then. And then it kind of just like propelled me forward into my first show because I was at least working out.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Like you already had you had this athletic background, this passion and interest in it already. So then when you saw the opportunity to engage in something that was like cheer, but still like tapped into that athlete side, it was a no-brainer. Plus, you were petite. So, and I would say most of us when we start don't have enough muscle anyway. So I know that question was probably not like even fair to ask because most of us didn't when we started, but to then go on and compete the way you did, would you say that there was a time where you realized, okay, I really want to go pro, or did it just kind of evolve with you?
It kind of just evolved with me. I think because the first federation I did, it was the INBA. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar.
okay. Mm-hmm.
I did shows with them, and then I switched over to NPC. I didn't know anything about Miss Olympia. I didn't know like what the goal was. I was just competing just to compete, just having fun. And then a lot of people like saw it in me, like you can do it, like you can really do it. And so I think that's kind of my love language, like words of affirmation and
Yeah.
like telling people that they can do things that they don't think they can. And so when I receive that, I'm like, it just like opens a horizon in my brain, and I'm like,
Hmm.
ooh. So it kind of just evolved over time, but it was really last year when it really came to fruition, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, yeah, actually that would be my next thought process is why was 2023 different or how was it different compared to the previous years?
I think I just really started watching and like seeing all the shows and seeing what these athletes do, and then it just really clicked in me that like prep isn't the only time that you're getting ready for these shows. If anything, it's your off season that's more
Mhm.
important. Um, and so once that clicked into my head, I'm like, okay, I need to be working even in the off season, never really an off season, really, because you're really trying to build all that muscle. And then, like I said, I'm very petite, so I have to put on a lot of muscle to even look comparable to these pros. So I think that's when it really clicked, is like me watching and see what they can do and like starting that dream of wanting to be, Miss Olympia one day. I think that's everyone's dream, but I truly feel it in my core that I can do it one day. And so once that really clicked, I was like, okay, this is what I need to be doing, but mainly in my off season. And I had a great off season leading up to my 2023 showing.
Yeah, no, that's amazing and what a great point too. Like you earned your pro card in 2023 after having had a very productive
Mhm.
improvement season or off season. And I think that oftentimes there is something that has to shift in athletes, or maybe you have a couple improvement seasons that just are like they're kind of up and down, they're not that great, but then you have a really solid one. And for you, it clearly contributed to you earning your pro card. And building this goal and this dream of becoming Miss Olympia too, which by the way, I would love if that happened for you and we look back on this just like we just did with Laura Lee. Like
I was
she,
just listening to her podcast with you this morning because I was
yeah.
like, I want to see like what it's like to be on her podcast. And so I was listening to that one, and I'm like, wow, like everything she talked to came to fruition, after
Mhm.
2019 is when you talked to her. So that would
Yeah.
be cool.
That's why I was just thinking that I'm like that could be some deja vu. But when you were on that road to pro,
Mhm.
what was some of the feedback you were getting and how did your preps and improvement seasons look and change to eventually get you where you wanted to be, which was IFBB pro status?
Yeah. So I'll basically go through the rundown of my year.
Yeah.
So 2023, I decided like right before the new year came in, I'm going to take bodybuilding really seriously this year. I'm going to start prep. I want to compete in March, I think it was the first NPC show that I wanted to do. And so January 1st, we nailed it and we were like, okay, we're going for it. So January 1st was the start of my prep in 2023. And then March came about and my body was just not responding at all. So leading up to this, I was working a nightclub job. And so my hormones were kind of messed up and there was just a lot going on with my body. And I had gained a little bit of weight, like extra weight that I don't normally carry. So I think just like the malnourishment of being, not sleeping enough or not even sleeping at all, really it really carried into my prep when I was really trying to dig deep. So March came around and I was not stage ready. And I think it's everyone's goal to not just show up to a show. Like you're showing up because you want to win, that's ultimately the goal. So, and my coach knows me very, very well. He's like, let's just not do this because there's always going to be a show. There will be a show next weekend. There will be 3 shows next weekend. You never
Yeah.
know, so the shows will always be there. But you being turned off by getting a really bad placing, that could be very detrimental to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so it was a very hard talk to have with him, but also it was very good because then I was like, okay, we can like lean off the gas for just a little bit and let my body do what it needs to do in order to be my best. So
Mm.
I kind of just let my body, I was still in prep mode, but we raised the calories, we dropped down cardio just to like gain a little bit of hormones back, really.
Yeah.
Um, so after that, we competed in, I think it was the Nevada State here in Las Vegas, and I did, I mean, I got first, but when I was looking at my pictures, I'm like, I'm still like soft, I didn't have the pop to me. I was just obviously the best there that day, but it still wasn't good enough in my head.
Yeah.
So we just kept going and going and going. The next show we did was Summer Shredding because they were doing like an Alpha Elite sponsorship, like that whoever won the show was going to get that. So I was like super into that. So I did 2 Summer Shredding shows. Obviously didn't win that, but I got sixth out of the top lineup. And I was like, I was kind of hurt, honestly, to be
Mhm.
fair, because I prepped so hard. And at this point, I think it was in July. And so I had been prepping since January 1st. So till July, like 6 months in, and I'm like, and I still wasn't stage ready. So my body just took a long time to like really get in tune with things. So then I did that. And then I was like, you know what? We're gonna keep going. So then we did the Steve Carr in November. I think it was the first weekend of November, and I felt great then. I was going for the overall, didn't win the overall. And then I didn't even know that Jen Dory and her husband, Mark Anthony, had a show and they started posting about it. And I was like, whoa, I didn't really know that she had a show. And then that was only like 3 weeks after the Steve Carr. And I'm like already kind of stage ready. If not, I can push it a little bit more. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So by this time, now this is my 5th show,
Yeah.
the entire year. And now we're talking November. It was January 1st when I started my prep.
Hmm.
So as you can tell, my hormones were just like out of whack. I had a little bit of extra weight that I had to work off, but it paid dividends. It really did because it gave me more and more chances to get on stage.
Mm.
Because I've always said this, like nothing beats stage time. If you don't have that stage time, like that natural confidence will never come in.
Yeah.
All of us started somewhere, all of us were nervous at some point. But the more stage time you get, the better you get at your craft on stage. So I did that show. I ended up winning my class and then I got the overall then. And that's when it really clicked because I was like, wow, I'm capable of doing big things here. And then nationals was only 2 weeks away and I wasn't going to do nationals at all. Like that was not my goal. My goal was just to do as many shows as I can, again, to build that experience under my belt, and to just grow as an athlete, really. And obviously, I want to be a pro. I wanted to be a pro, but I didn't, that wasn't my goal last year. It really wasn't. It was just to get on stage and just, do what I love. But then people started saying, hey, you should go to nationals, you should go to nationals. And I'm like, I didn't even know what nationals was. I really didn't. Like, I was so like out of the blue. And so I looked it up. It was only 2 weeks after. And I'm like, okay, but at this point, I'm like broke from all the
Yeah.
shows,
Yeah,
because it's
for real.
expensive. Traveling, doing all this stuff. I'm lucky enough that I live in Vegas. So like the Steve Carr and then the High Roller Royale, those are here. So I didn't spend as much money, but all the other shows, like they're expensive. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to bet on myself. And I truly went to nationals just to get in front of certain judges because I had never been in front of Sally. Yeah, Sally, and I had never been in front of Sandy. Sorry. I don't know why I'm saying Sally. I'd never been in front of Sandy, Tyler, Etela, nobody, like nobody big, really. The only guy I've been in front of was Tarek.
Eric. Hmm.
Tarek, yeah, he was the only one, and he had told me like you should go to nationals. That was his feedback from the High Roller Royale. And so that's when it clicked. I was like, okay, I need to know what this is, figure it all out and stuff. But the goal for nationals was to just get in front of those judges to get their personal feedback so I know what to do going into my next off season. That was
Yeah.
the thing. So when I got to nationals, I'm like, there's 30 girls here in just my class. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know that I fit in here. Like I truly
Mhm.
thought that. And then I got back into like my journaling and I was like, okay, no, like there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I have like this gut feeling that I can do big things in the sport. There's a reason why I bet on myself. And even though I'm broke, I'm gonna go to the show. And so I was like, I'm just gonna get out of my head and I'm gonna get grounded. And that's how that little tradition started with my pre-show things. Cause I was like, okay, how do I drown out all the noise? Even though there's not noise around me, it's just, I mean, you know what it feels like to be backstage,
Yes.
so
Yes.
pump up, you slightly get into comparison mode. So that was my way of like grounding myself back down and remaining calm. And so then when we all came out, they started doing first call outs and they called my number was 219. They started calling 217 and I'm like, okay, if I don't get called right now, I'm not going to be called. Then they called my number and I'm like, what? Because everybody, when you go to a national show, like everybody looks just as good as you, if not
Mhm.
better, you think.
Yeah.
So I was like in shock, in absolute shock. Then they first moved me to splitting center with another girl. Her name is Lenny. They moved me there and then they never moved us. And I was like, wait, but I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know where I was on stage because I think
Yeah.
of us. And so I didn't really know where I was. I wasn't paying attention to the ground, so I didn't know if I was center or not. When I came off, everyone came over to me, my fiance and my coach. They were like, you were splitting center. Like, do you know what this is? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I have a possibility of getting a pro card today. Like, crazy. But I think it was so much more rewarding because I didn't go in expecting a pro card. I really just wanted to get that constructive criticism and the feedback so that I know what to do going into my off season, instead of taking, feedback from people who think they know, taking it straight from the source. That's exactly why I went. And to get a pro card out of it was just amazing.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Like, I love how you weren't necessarily expecting it. You had a really long year too. Like, that was a long prep, a long season. You kept kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
And then you went to get feedback for what your next off season would look like. I mean, you obviously decided not to go straight into a pro debut. So what did they tell you after you won your pro card?
So Sandy backstage, she was like, you have the it factor. And this is honestly verbatim what I got from every single judge that I spoke to. And I talked to every single one of them. And they said, you have the it factor, you have the flow, the stage presence is there. You're just a little bit on the smaller side, but your proportions are amazing. So whatever you're doing, keep doing. And so I think that's the best feedback anyone could ever get because normally it's like an offset, like grow your shoulders a little bit more or grow your glutes a little bit
Hmm.
more, tighten your waist a little bit, or like it's always something that you can pinpoint. But their feedback was just grow into the shape that I have. So it couldn't have gone better. And I honestly feel so blessed and so grateful to have that experience under my belt and that feedback because I was like, okay, I don't really have to change anything. I just have to keep working. Like show up every single day as I was showing up for my last prep. And that's when this off season, leading into this prep was so like constructive. It was so constructive because I knew what I had to do. I didn't really need to change anything. It was just like lift as heavy as you can so I can grow as much as I can, put those muscles under stress so that they can grow. But I think it was just so cool to get that. And like I said, it was verbatim what every single judge said. Tyler with the straight face was just like, you have it, grow into it. That's literally what he
Hmm.
said.
I
And
see.
yeah, so it was so cool to receive that kind of feedback. Like I said, because I mean, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I just needed to keep going.
Yeah,
So
that's really
that's
encouraging.
why I didn't go right into, I tried, honestly, I was thinking about doing one in March, but then I was like I said, I don't want to go to a show just to show up,
Right.
like to go to a show and especially being a pro now, I want to know that I can be within the mix. Like I don't want to be third, fourth, fifth call outs. Like I don't want to be that because I just know myself, it'll be really hard on me. Not that I can't endure that, but I just know myself, and I know that it's going to give me like a minor setback in my mind.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just take an entire year and just grow as much as I can. And I remained relatively lean, not lean, but I mean, I didn't gain a bunch of weight.
Mhm.
So it's showing in this prep because my body's really responding now, whereas before I had to do a year-long prep. So now I'm like, okay, things are moving in the right direction and I have the right goals in mind.
Yeah, I get that. That's how I feel like in this prep for me too. I'm like, my body's just responding so good. Like, and I didn't gain a bunch in this improvement. I mean, we pushed it, but then we'd bring it back. And we like had a good, it's been like 2 years and we worked really hard on some of the functional things too, which I want to talk to you about. But yeah, now like this prep is going so smoothly that I'm like, we're really not competing till April. Like, but it's good because we're gonna build in like diet breaks and celebrate holidays and probably feed into the show so I'll look healthy and full. So it'll be a different experience, but a great one. And I think with your passion for longevity and health and the term being biohacking, what do you think most competitors do not prioritize, but absolutely should be prioritizing for longevity in their life and in this sport, especially with the demands that we're placing on our body?
Yeah, I think when you think about traditional bodybuilding, like you take it way back, people were just eating to eat
Yeah.
and not really paying attention to the quality of stuff that's going into your body. Like you only get one life, and in that one life, you only get one body. And so why not treat it as if it were like a Ferrari that costs you $200,000? Why would you not? You know? So to me, I think what people in this sport, and I think now it's kind of being because now social media has brought it to life where like you should be paying attention to the quality of stuff that's going into your body. And now I think it's definitely coming about, which makes me so, so happy because for the longest time, people were just, if it's a carb, they'll eat it, and
Yeah.
not good. Or if it's a protein, they'll eat it, and it's like, no, like you should pay the extra cent so that you have good quality food inside of you and it doesn't mess with you and your hormones too, like eating all this bad stuff, it creates so much issues within you. And then that just in turn downfalls on your longevity, like I've always said I want to be a centenarian, but I want to be a centenarian that no one's taking care of me. I don't need anybody to be wiping my butt or like helping me up. Like, I don't want that, you know? I want to be a strong and healthy centenarian. I think that's my biggest goal in life. It really is.
Wow, that's awesome.
Be a centenarian, but like no one taking care of me. I don't want anybody to take care
You're
of me.
gonna be on stage at 100. Like, what's that?
Literally, yes, like that would be goals, you know. But with that, I mean that goes into like the biohacking stuff, you know. So I have a sauna here at my house. I pretty much sauna every single day, because it helps a lot with growth hormone. I think there's studies that 16% increase in growth hormone after you work out if you get into a sauna, which is really good. And then it helps your heart, you know, live a lot longer because it's making it work, you know, without you having to do any intensive workouts, you know.
Mm.
So I do a lot of that at night, like my circadian rhythm is on par every single day. I'm like
Wow.
fluorescent light, I'm like, no, get it out of here. I wear my blue light blockers, you know. My room is all decked out in red lights, like my house is next, you know. So
Uh-huh.
I just do a lot of things that's going to help me ultimately get to being a centenarian. So it's taking care of your body now, even though we're young and thriving and stuff, like it's what you do now, what's going to propel you forward and living healthy, you know? Like I can't remember the last time, I mean, knock on wood and thank God, I can't remember the last time I've been to a doctor, you know, I don't even have health insurance. I don't really believe in it. I feel like our body is able to withstand, you know, if you go back to our ancient times, they didn't really, I mean, they had doctors, but like you never had to pay to go get help. You know, it was always something holistic, or you just let your body kind of work through it, you know? And I feel like we kind of have gotten away from that. And we're now just like giving money to big pharma. And so I just want to get away from that. And that's where biohacking really comes into play, is like doing all these little mundane things day to day that's going to really help you live a long and healthy life, you know? Sorry for
Definitely.
barking at me.
It's okay. I didn't even hear. Oh, hi, sweet
This is
girl.
Piper. She's Mama Bear.
Piper. Welcome to the show, Piper.
I just have
So
to say
cute.
hi.
She's adorable.
So
I'm glad you brought her on to say hi. Oh my
she
goodness.
actually has gone to every single one of my shows too.
Yeah, that's awesome. She's like your mascot then.
She really is.
That is so cool. I love that she's been to your shows. Are you gonna bring her to your pro debut?
She
Of
goes with
course.
me everywhere. She travels with me everywhere. The only
Does
place
she go backstage?
she doesn't go backstage. She stays in front with my fiance, Jacob, but I mean any other second, yeah, she's with me.
That's awesome. How long have you had her?
3 years. So she went to all of my shows last year.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. She's adorable.
She's
Um, so on the subject of longevity, by the way, something I'm curious to ask you, is there anything you don't do anymore that you used to do that you realized, oh, although maybe it's normal in the industry or in fitness, it's not, I realize it's actually not beneficial for me long term.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is cold plunging, which is so weird.
Interesting.
So for recovery purposes, so like I used to go after my workouts, and this was when cold plunges were like a big fad,
Mhm.
when it started to come about. And it's not good for you in terms of recovery. Like people think that it's going to help with muscle soreness. It actually halts muscle building, like for I think 24 hours or something like that. I don't know the exact like fact on it, but I know it stops muscle building. So now I do it like every once in a while, and it's like on a rest day and just really for like energy purposes. And again, it is for longevity, but for recovery, I think people get those two like mixed together. And
Yeah.
so I don't do it anymore for recovery purposes. I just do it for longevity. So that's one thing that comes to mind. And
Fascinating.
then Another thing is like not reading labels. Like before, I used to just grab things and not really know about it. And now I'm like super anal. Like you should see me. I bring my sauces with me to like sushi restaurant, any restaurant. I'll bring my own sauces, my own salt. I'll ask for no oil. I bring my own oil. Like I'm very anal of like what's going into my body because I'm the one who has to pay for it in the long run if something goes wrong, you know?
Mm.
So I would rather know what's going into my body. So that's another thing too, is just like not paying attention or just like eating just to eat. Now I eat to like really nourish myself and to like help my body like be healthy long term. So those are two things that come to my mind.
And this might be like a silly question, but do you have like a approach to like a free meal, or if you get like a refeed that, let's say you have a bump in maybe carbs and fats, or it's not a bump, it's just untracked. Like, will you have something like pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving?
Okay. I would love a little pumpkin pie, but weirdly enough, anything that I do indulge in, I try to make myself. So
Yeah.
like again, it goes back to yes, I like to indulge, sometimes, but I like to know what's going into my body. That's like the ultimate thing, you know.
Mhm.
So sometimes here and there, yes, I'm going to indulge in some things, but I then pay for it after. And I'm like, why did I even do that? Yeah, it was good for the like 1 minute that it was in my mouth, but that's about it. So
Uh-huh.
so that just doesn't really like correlate with like what I'm about. So yes, I have my sweets here and there, but in moderation, and if I can make it myself, I'll try to do it myself. So with like family gatherings and stuff, I always like to bring something healthy or like my own dish. That's always what I do. And it's funny because people gravitate to it because they know that
Yeah.
I'm pretty healthy, and I like to be fit. And so they want to try it. And then they're like, wait, this is actually really good.
Right.
Act in that sense. So yeah, I do have my fun, but I like to at least make it myself.
Yeah, and I think that's a great skill to have too. And like the unfortunate truth is so much of what is just available to us on the shelves at
Yeah,
supermarkets, it's like half of the stuff we don't even know what it is. And then
exactly.
how can we trust that it's benefiting us when the amount of money it's making the people who, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's just
You really
like,
have to think about everything as a business. What's in it for
Mhm.
them? What's in it for me? That's literally what it is. That's why Whole Foods are so much more expensive now because like no, they don't want people to buy that stuff. They want people to buy the cheaper stuff and everybody gravitates to that. So they're making a lot of money. So everything's always a business. And I think once I flip that mentality in my head, I'm like, okay, like this is all a business. It's like same with big pharma. Like everything is a business, sadly enough. But there's ways around it. There's always ways around it. It's just about like staying true to your core and making things happen, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if certain things are preventable or treatable holistically,
Mhm.
that's the best approach to take. And I know that there are some things that unfortunately are unavoidable and have to go treated. And
I can't do my own surgery, obviously,
yeah,
There's professionals for that, but if it's like a mild sickness, like I'm gonna let my
exactly.
body do its thing because that's what it was made to do.
Yeah, it's impressive too that you carry that mentality because in today's time, that's really uncommon. It's not a normal way of thinking because the easier thing to do is, oh,
Like,
this is it's convenient. And this is easy. And therefore I'm going to take the path of least resistance. But you really want to help other women to capitalize on their health and their longevity. So it sounds like you want to instill these core beliefs and values as well as habits and skill sets into other women. So how would you take a client who maybe comes to you and they've been used to doing like, I just, if it fits my macros, I eat it. I don't look at the labels. I have these things that I'm committed to with my family and I have a difficult time giving them up. Like, but I want to live more holistically. I want the things that you have. How would you approach that when they've set so much of this in stone?
So I always have one-on-one calls with them and I ask them like, is your health a top priority? And normally, yes, people will say that. So then I'm like, okay, like what are you willing to give up and what are you not willing to give up? So when I have my first one-on-one call with them, I'm asking them like exactly like what would a typical day of eating for you would be like? Like
Yeah.
list every single thing you put into your mouth in a day. I'm not here to judge. The more I
Right.
know, the more I can help. So if there's things that they truly, truly love, I'm not taking those out because adherence and consistency is at the top of the line with online coaching.
Mhm.
So if there's things that I can keep in, I'm going to keep in. But what's crazy is that in a few weeks, once they start feeling better, they're like, you know what? I actually don't really need this anymore. So it's me just sharing about what's in these things and really teaching them like what it's doing to their body, or not even that. They'll eat clean for like 3 days, then have that little thing, and now they feel like crap again. And they're like, wait, what was it?
Mhm.
And they can pinpoint it. Now they can pinpoint it because now everything is very consistent going into your week. And then at the end, you have something off, and it's like, whoa, my body didn't like that. Whereas before, they're always feeling like crap. That's why they come to me, you know?
You're right.
They want to feel better. So I never try to take things away from my clients. I never want to be like, oh no, you can't have this, you can't have that. I actually don't even want to use can't ever in my
Mhm.
vocabulary with my clients. Um, it's all about teaching them like the importance of what's going into your body. If your body doesn't like it, it's going to tell you. And that's how you determine whether these things are good or not for you, because sometimes like for me, egg whites don't do well with me, but they might do really well with somebody else. So I unfortunately can't have them because I don't want to pay the price for that, but it
Mhm.
could be, and that's a healthy food. So it's
Right.
teaching these people like to really pay attention to what their body is telling them with every single thing that they're putting into their body. So that's mainly what I do. I don't like to take things away. I like to really teach them and really teach them how to pay attention to what it is their body is telling them.
When I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology and went on to earn my clinical mental health counseling degree and even become a national certified counselor, I knew I wanted to bridge the gap between competitors and mental health professionals. Too often, athletes are told that they can't compete and have a healthy relationship with food or their body. And I absolutely disagree with that. I have helped thousands of women globally to build more than just a body by combining psychology, personal development, mindfulness, and my signature peace through growth process. If you are struggling with the post show blues, or you're struggling with adherence to your prep, or any aspect of your relationship with food, your body image, or overall commitment to your goals, I have tons of resources available for you over at www.celestial.fit. Things like a free food relationship coaching series, free post show blues coaching series, a full competitor card deck with statements to use for affirmations, journal prompts to go through, and even action and behavior changes that you can implement right away. I really believe that by prioritizing the inner work and developing a healthy mindset, competitors can have a more fulfilling journey. And I know the mental side of this sport is really key to establishing longevity, ending the yo-yoing from show to show, and really establishing goals that span well beyond the stage. If you're looking for that support, head over to www.celestial.fit where you can find tons of free resources or even apply to work with me. That's so beautiful. I love that you just said that because I think that that is missing in health coaching and fitness coaching, even in competing. Like, let's be real. If I could change anything about competing, I would be like, there'd be a lot less take away this and a lot more add this. Because meal plans, even like some competitors will go on a meal plan, the same meal plan for months and months and months and months. And now their gut microbiome is so messed up, they can't even eat those foods
Yeah.
without serious intervention, or potentially they don't even want to risk eating them. So taking the approach you do where it's like, see how you feel, and plus I think when you add in, let's say someone who's not used to eating honey on their rice cake or honey on a rice cake or something. Let's say you tell them eat honey on a rice cake. And then they're like, oh, honey's actually really good. Like that curbed a sweet tooth more than, say, maybe the coffee cake they always got with their Starbucks. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but they might
Yeah.
actually appreciate having a new option and the experience it offers them and the learning. So I think that you take a really great approach. Like it's not you can't, it's a here's more choices.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I like to do. I like to share all of my tips and tricks because I've been doing this for years. For me, I don't mind eating the same foods every single day. What I switch out is my veggies so that, again, like you said, your gut microbiome is not all messed up, because you have to keep it guessing. So I like to switch out my meat, switch out my carb sources and stuff, but I can eat, relatively the same stuff
Yeah.
all year. I have no problem. I have no issue with it. I cook my meals very fresh every single time I eat. I don't meal prep. So for me, it's not hard for me to stay consistent and like eat the same foods. But I know that for the majority of people, they want a new meal every time they go to eat, you
Right.
know? So it's just really teaching like, okay, you can do those things. So I give them ingredients and I'm like, hey, like just this is your time to get creative in your kitchen. Like it doesn't have to be straight white rice, boiled chicken, and steamed broccoli. Like it doesn't have to be that. Like switch around your veggies, even different forms of cooking your proteins, cooking your starches. There's
Mhm.
different ways. It makes it taste different every single time,
Yeah.
Like, so just you have to experiment and you have to take the time to do these things. But the fact that I have years of experience and then I kind of listen to like what they like and what they don't like. I know what to plug in and what to tell them like, okay, you should try it this way, to try it this way and see if you like it. And then if they like it, cool. If they don't, okay, I have another option for you. So again, it's always plug and play until they create those good habits in their day-to-day life.
And it's so interesting too, because humans really are creatures of habit. So even though people will say, well, I don't want to eat the same thing every day, that's like usually a common excuse, even for people considering competing.
But
The
they just
thing is, we already do,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like when you talk to like your clients or people, it's like, I could never follow that diet.
yeah.
But you definitely could because you do. You just,
Follow a
it's just
diet
different.
every day, you're eating one Pop-Tart every day, you're eating a bag of Cheetos every single day. So you are a creature of habit,
Yeah.
it's just changing those habits to be good ones versus not good ones.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I like too your approach like and this goes for competitors like and lifestyle clients alike, but your approach to your body is your only body. It's
Mhm.
what you have for this life. So I think taking an approach that's backed with an appreciation and gratitude also transforms the energy from, I have to do this to, oh, this is amazing. I get to nourish myself.
Yes, exactly. I always try to instill that like into my clients because it's like I don't have to do this. You don't have to do it. Like at the end of my calls, I'm always like, I want you to be excited for this. It's not for me. I love my life. I love my body. I like take care of it the way it should be taken care of. But I want you to get to that point, like I want you to be excited for it. So I think just like taking it away, they realize that like shit, she's right. Like I should be taking into account what it is I'm putting into my body because again, you only get one life in one body. So treat it as if it were your temple, like, you know. So yeah, I think that's a good correlation there.
Now, you also have a supportive partner who you've brought up, and he's invested in this lifestyle as well. How do you think that influences your progress and your success also?
It influences it a lot. To be fair, I have a very supportive family, and my fiance, above all, like he's heaven sent. He really is,
Mm.
and I feel like the gut feeling that I have in my stomach that I can do big things in the pro league, it does stem from him because I never was a person to like brag about myself or like really believe in myself. It was him that like really made it like bloom in me, and like telling me like,
Wow.
no, you can do this, you're very consistent. You do these things every single day. That's also why I started my YouTube channel as well, is because he was like, why don't you just share what you do every single day to the people, like they want to see that stuff. So I mean, the support is everything. It really is. And I think it's very important in everything you do in life. If you have that support system, I know a lot of people, might not have that support system, but it's all about finding your circle. So like going to gyms and joining the communities that you should be in so that you feel that support if you're close, like people don't support you, Um, but yeah, I think it helped me a lot, really. It really did, because he believes in me more than I believe in myself, and so I think it really helps me strengthen that belief in myself.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so wonderful too, because you're right, not a lot of people have that. So I think that knowing you do is amazing and it gives you that, but also he helped, it sounds like he helped really foster even more belief and bolster you in that way. And to have that type of partner you can lean on will allow you to pursue and get through anything. And then obviously with that belief in yourself, with your success, the things that you've been able to prove to yourself over the years, has it changed you as a person? Like, how has it maybe impacted you and the way you perceive yourself and what you do, aside from what he's told you, but just using that, how has that influenced you?
I think it's influenced me a lot and like changing my mentality about a lot of things. My
Mm.
upbringing was a little rough, and then my previous relationship was a little rough as well. So I think bodybuilding was like an outlet for me to like heal and stuff. And then within that, I actually met my fiance Jacob in the gym. And
Wow.
so it was like a love story within itself, and I think because he was there, it was like at the start of like my bodybuilding career is when I met him. And just like so much started to like come about from me being with him. And like I said, he just really believes in me more than I believe in myself. And I think it just has helped me so much in everything that I try to do.
Yeah. And what did you go to college for, by the way?
Psychology, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm a first generation to go to college in my entire
That's
family.
awesome.
So it was more of like, weirdly enough, it was more of like a bucket list type of thing. Like
Yeah.
anything, ever since I was little, like anything that I say I'm going to do, I do it. So I was like, I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna show these people that we can do it too, and like be an
Wow.
example for all of my cousins, growing up behind me. So I just did it just to get the experience. And then obviously I didn't want cheer to end for me. So I was
Yeah.
like, I still need to cheer, anything athletic, like I
Mhm.
need to do. So I went to the auditions for UC Davis, and then I got the position, and I was like, wow, like I could really do these things. Um, so yeah, that's how that came about. But I forgot what the question was, honestly.
It was what you went to college for and studied, actually. It was just a
Yeah.
random question.
Yeah, so it was just psychology, and again, it was just like a bucket list thing. So
Yeah.
I knew I didn't really want to do anything. I actually wanted to go into nursing. So I was like, well, all of the prerequisites for nursing school fall in line with psychology. And I've always been so fathomed by the human body and like the mind and like what it can do and stuff. So anything with like the human body, I was like so about. So
And
yeah,
there's
it was
definitely a
more
lot
like
of that in psychology, actually.
a
Like people would be surprised, like the amount of lifestyle development courses you take and philosophy, obviously, I think aligns with the body, but human development, lifestyle development, like you really learn. And I had a obviously I did psychology, counseling, all those things, but I had the interest in fitness prior to that, like personal training and coaching. I'm like, this is interesting. Like, there's obviously connections, but then when you learn about them in that way too, you're like, wow, it's undeniable. Um, So I just think that's amazing. And to be a first generation college student and be a collegiate athlete at
Mhm.
UC Davis, that's a massive success story. And especially if you came from a rough upbringing to overcome those challenges and be an example, I imagine that must have been incredibly rewarding.
Oh yeah, it is. And to this day, like I wouldn't take my upbringing, my college experience, any of it back because it made me the person that I am now, you know. But yeah, it was probably one of the most monumental times of my life, you know, to be able to graduate, you know. I had the cap on and everything, so I got
Mhm.
all the feels, you know, from it. And my parents, most of all, were able to enjoy that, you know. And it was more so for them to, because they came from Mexico. So they came over here to, so that we can have a better life. And so for me, it was like more of like a gratitude, showing them gratitude for what they endured in their life to be able, for us to be able to do these things, you know? So it was mainly like for them to really show them that like I'm grateful for you guys making the trek over here and you know busting your butts to create the life that I have, you know. So yeah, it was a monumental time of my life for sure.
One of my best friends is actually a first gen, and she's going through that process right now. And she's doing it for a lot of similar reasons. She has a passion for neuroscience, but I'm just hearing you talk about the gratitude you had and wanting to really celebrate what your parents did. It rings true to what she's experiencing. And it got me thinking in your case, like when you were growing up, did you face a lot of like poverty or did you have to take care of and look out for yourself a lot because your parents were probably, I imagine they were working a lot.
Yes, so they were working a lot. They didn't speak little to no English. So that's also another thing. Like I matured really, really fast because like all of the paperwork that parents had to do, I had to do. You know, me and my older sister, we always had to do everything for our parents, you know, like sick notes, everything. Like I had to do everything. So, yeah, it it was a rough time, but also, like I said, I would never take it back because it made me the person that I am now, you know?
Mhm.
And it's funny because growing up, I always gravitated towards like older people because I like my head was with them because I had to. You know, I had to put those big girl pants on when I was little. So it just helped me a lot throughout my entire life. So yes, I lived like a poverty life, but I would never take it back because those struggles made me the person that I am.
That's incredible. I imagine it gave you a lot of perspective, gratitude, and probably now, like, or I guess I shouldn't assume, but do you have a lot of peace of mind with your life now because of what you've faced?
Yeah, I do. I'm just I'm honored to have like so much gratitude in my life because, like I said, it was not easy for me when I was young. So now I feel like I'm so abundant in life,
Wow.
even though I'm really not, and
Mm.
not yet because I know it's coming, you know. But like
Yeah.
I really do feel like I'm so abundant and so like special, really, because I
Mhm.
went through a lot, you know, and I didn't know where my life was going to go, but I'd say I'm doing pretty dang good, you know, and so I'm just grateful for that. Like I just try to show gratitude in everything that I do. And I think that's why I've been able to like do big things in such little time is because I'm just grateful. I don't take anything for granted. And that goes back to my upbringing, you know, like I was never just given things. I always had to work for my stuff. So it's just it shows now of like, okay, my hardships, I went through that when I was younger, but now it's like I went through that for a reason, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's really a reason for all of it. And the person you are now, you couldn't be this, like you said, without everything that you've been through. And now you get to use that for perspective and to inspire people. Like, I know there's people listening on this platform who are going to be like, oh my gosh, like that's totally me, or that's totally my friend, or that's my family. And you get to show them like what's possible and continue to. So I know you've shared a lot of great insight with us, but I'd like to ask for your best advice for someone who's never competed before but wants to, and then your best advice for somebody who's on their road to pro.
So somebody who's never competed before is like, just believe in yourself. Just do it. Like the worst that could happen is you don't place, but the fact that you stepped on stage, you're already winning, and you're only going to get better. That's just step one. So just believe in yourself enough to step on that stage. And like I said before, stage time is the experience that you need. So the more times you can step on stage, the better you will get no matter what. And it's always you against you. So don't compare yourself to other people. It's just you versus you. So every time you step on stage, just try to beat the last you. And then what was the second thing?
Best advice for someone on their road to pro.
Going with no expectations. That's the biggest thing. And don't take things for granted. I think the moment you kind of ruin your road really is you thinking that you got it. There's a difference between words of affirmation, like bringing it into existence and manifesting that pro winning. But then there's also a feeling of like, oh, I got it. And that's not, it's an ugly way of thinking. It really is. And I think it sets back a lot of people because they think that they're on top of the world, they're number one, and nobody else can beat them. There's always going to be someone who's better than you know? And I think, I mean, I haven't really faced that yet because I haven't gotten into a pro league yet, but I know there's going to be more losses than wins. So you got to just be prepared for what it is without expectations of being number one. So that's what propelled me forward. I wasn't going in to get a pro card. I just wanted their feedback. I just wanted to stand in front of them and feel the feels, and see them in person. Because they're the Olympia judges, they're the head of the head. So to get their feedback was my main thing. So again, just don't go in with any expectations, have fun, dance on stage, like stay grounded and just go after it.
That's awesome. Both pieces of advice are awesome. And I'm really grateful that you shared that because the thing that stood out to me and it kind of like, oh, you know, you could ruin your road to pro by like not being present in it or by having too high of expectations of yourself or saying, oh, it's already decided instead of
Mhm.
being like grounded in each moment that's creating it. So I love that so much. And I want people to be able to follow your road to your pro debut and connect with you, follow your journey even beyond that, and maybe even work with you. So, how can they do those things?
So I am an online fitness coach, so you can reach out to me directly on Instagram. That's the main platform that I'm on. So it's at ARISDELSY, just my first name. And then I'm also building my YouTube channel. So if you guys can go over there and watch some of my YouTube videos, that would be awesome. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. And it's ARISDELSY CUEVAS on YouTube as well. And you'll see my day-to-day life, how I do things, how mundane I am.
I love it. Well, we will put that information in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you are listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the alphabetized category section. You will not just see Aristelcy's all the connections and the social medias. You'll also see mine, and you're going to see a full summary of this episode, a bulleted list of the topics we covered, as well as episode timestamps so you can go back and listen to your favorite parts, or, of course, share it with your friends, your family, your teammates. Let them know what you thought. And please post your story. Let us know that you listen, tag the athlete, or reach out to them. It always goes a long way for, of course, the show, but more than that for the athletes. They spend their time, they give us their time coming onto this podcast to share their story. So it would mean so much to support them through that. And if you feel so inspired to rate this podcast, that goes a long way as well. So all that being said, thank you, Aristelcy, for coming on.
No, thank you. It was honestly such an honor to be able to be on
Aw.
here first time, my first podcast ever. So done and out of the way. Love
And I
that.
know you love words of affirmation, so I'll say it again. It's not going to be your last at all. Yeah,
I
you absolutely crushed it. Piper crushed it too.
appreciate
Bye, Piper. The main star, the real queen,
it. She
the
actually
bikini
is.
bro. Well, I'll keep you on the line, and to everybody listening, thank you all so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.